I never thought I'd find myself writing something like this, but here I am, sitting in my living room, my heart feeling like it's been ripped out and I'm ready to spill everything. My name is Mike and I've been married to Sarah for 5 years. We had a pretty decent relationship, or so I thought. You know, the kind where you believe you know your partner inside out and everything seems all right until it's not. Sure, we had our ups and downs like any couple, but lately something felt off. I started noticing minor changes in Sarah's behavior a few months ago. She was working late more often at her job as an event planner, which I initially shrugged off. I mean, it's a demanding job, right? But then I noticed the little things. She'd come home later than usual smelling of cheap cologne, which was odd because she never liked strong scents. I chalked it up to work stress. I also noticed her phone was glued to her hand, and she'd get this weird look on her face when I'd ask about it, like she was hiding something. The final straw came one Friday evening when I decided to surprise. By cooking her favorite dinner, I set the table with candles and even picked up a nice bottle of wine. I was genuinely excited to see her walk through that door, but when she finally did come home, she was different. She seemed rushed, her hair was a mess, and she had this distracted look in her eyes. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to gauge the mood. "Oh, nothing, just had a long day," she responded a bit too quickly. I wanted to press further, but I didn't want to ruin the night I had planned. We sat down to dinner and I tried to make conversation, but she barely touched her food. It felt like I was sitting across from a stranger. As the evening wore on, I excused myself to the bathroom, and that's when I saw it, her phone buzzing on the counter, screen lit up with a message from a contact named Ryan. I picked it up without thinking. Curiosity got the better of me. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, just you and me." My heart sank. I didn't want to believe what I was reading, but it was too late. I didn't need to see more. I felt a mix of anger and confusion wash over me. When I came back to the table, I had to confront her. I asked her about Ryan. Her face went pale and I could see the wheels turning in her head, trying to come up with an excuse. "Who's Ryan?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Sarah hesitated for a moment, then shot back, "He's just a coworker. We've been planning the upcoming charity event together. That's all." I didn't buy it, not for a second. The guilt was written all over her face. I pressed on, demanding the truth, and when I finally got it, it felt like a bullet to the heart. She admitted to having an affair with Ryan, the bartender at a local bar. My gut twisted at the thought. She was not only cheating on me, but doing it with some guy who served drinks for a living. Her explanation was a mess of half-hearted excuses and lies, claiming she felt unappreciated and lost. My anger boiled over. I felt betrayed and humiliated. I could hardly look at her as she tried to justify her actions. I remember thinking, how could she do this to me? That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in my life that I never wanted to write. I had to face the reality of my marriage crumbling before my eyes, tainted by Sarah's choices. This was the moment I realized that I had a decision to make, one that would change everything. Did I want to fight for a marriage that had been built on lies, or did I want to forge a new path entirely? The answers weren't coming easily. All I knew was that this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions. I was angry, devastated, and confused all at once. I replayed the moments leading up to the confrontation over and over in my mind like a broken record. The memories of our happy times together now felt tainted, like I was looking at faded photographs. I went through the motions of life, but everything felt hollow. Work was unbearable. I struggled to focus and my colleagues noticed. Friends reached out, sensing something was off, but I kept my mouth shut. Eventually, I couldn't avoid the questions anymore. I confronted Sarah again. I wanted to hear her side, to understand how someone I thought I knew could betray me so deeply. We sat down in the living room, the air thick with tension. I could see her fidgeting, avoiding eye contact. "Do you even care about what you've done?" I asked, my voice low and steady, trying to keep my emotions in check. She hesitated, then sighed. "I do. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I felt like you didn't see me anymore." "What do you mean I didn't see you?" I shot back, anger flaring up again. "I've been here, I've supported you through everything. This isn't about me not seeing you, it's about you choosing to lie and cheat." her face twisted in a mix of guilt and defensiveness. "It was just a mistake. We weren't fighting, but I felt so lonely. I thought you were too busy with work to even notice me." It was at that moment I realized that she was still trying to deflect responsibility. A mistake. No, this was a choice, and she had made it repeatedly. I couldn't ignore that. The anger bubbled up in me. I had to do something, but I knew I had to think carefully about what my next steps would be. As the days turned into weeks, Sarah moved back into the guest room. We were living like strangers under the same roof, both avoiding the elephant in the room. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to regain control over my life. I couldn't let her actions define me. I started to think about revenge, not just the petty kind that might involve a drunken night out or some social media post. I wanted something bigger, something that would make a statement. That's when the idea hit me. I remembered how Sarah used to rave about her favorite local bar where she'd go with friends. She claimed it was the best place for drinks, and it was where she and Ryan had supposedly met. My heart raced at the thought. What if I opened my own bar? A place that would rival hers, and more importantly, a place where she and Ryan could never step foot again. I started sketching out plans. I'd always had a passion for mixology, and I had dreams of opening a bar one day. It felt like the perfect way to channel my anger and hurt into something productive. I began researching the steps needed to start a business, talking to friends who had experience in the industry. I started to save money. I knew it wouldn't happen overnight, but I wanted to make this dream a reality. Every time I thought about Sarah and Ryan, it pushed me further into action. I'd create a space that reflected who I was, not who I had been as her husband. The more I planned, the more I felt a sense of purpose. I could visualize the interior, the drinks, the music. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life. I wanted to create something that would be a testament to my strength, something that would show them both they couldn't take me down so easily. As I pored over designs and budgets late into the night, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. It was like I was finally taking back the reins of my life. At that moment, I knew this was the beginning of the end of my pain and the start of something entirely new. There was no going back now. I was ready to turn the page and write the next chapter of my life, one where I was in control. It was time to put my plan into action. I was determined to make this work, and I would make sure Sarah would never enjoy the success of my efforts. I'd make sure they both would understand the consequences of betrayal. With my plan in motion, I dove headfirst into research and preparation. Every waking moment became consumed with creating this bar that would symbolize my rise from the ashes of betrayal. I spent nights scouring the internet for business advice, poring over articles about successful bar owners, and watching countless YouTube videos on mixology. I even started experimenting with cocktail recipes in my kitchen, transforming our once shared space into my makeshift lab. I had to secure funding. I reached out to a few friends who showed interest in investing. Some were eager, others hesitant, but I kept my vision clear. I wanted to build a bar that would be unique, one that offered a twist on classic cocktails, a welcoming atmosphere, and a sense of community. I envisioned themed nights and live music, a space where people could come and unwind, far removed from the chaos that had overtaken my life. While working on my plan, I also had to navigate the delicate dance of living with Sarah. We barely spoke, exchanging only the necessary words. It was suffocating, and I loathed being in the same house as her. It felt like a constant reminder of what she had done. I began to see her as a stranger instead of the woman I had loved. One evening, as I returned home from yet another meeting about the bar, I found Sarah sitting on the couch looking despondent. Maybe it was guilt, or maybe she was just missing the life we once had, but I had no sympathy left. "Can we talk?" she asked hesitantly, her voice almost pleading. I paused, not sure if I wanted to hear what she had to say. "What's there to talk about?" I replied, my tone sharp. She took a deep breath, her eyes welling up slightly. "I miss us, Mike. I know I messed up, but I want to fix things. I'm really sorry." I stared at her, my heart hardened by the truth of her betrayal. "You think saying sorry is going to change anything? You ruined our marriage, Sarah. I can't just forget what you did." She flinched at my words, but I couldn't help it. The pain I felt was too raw, too real. I had given her everything and she had thrown it away for some bartender. "I know I hurt you, but I want to make it right," she insisted. "I'd do anything to prove it to you." "You can't replace trust once it's broken," I shot back, feeling the anger surge again. "You had your chance and you blew it." The conversation ended there. I walked away, feeling a mix of frustration and relief. I was firm. There was no way I'd be swayed by her tears or excuses. The more I focused on my bar, the more my resolve grew. Booking a location became my next priority. I found a small, run-down building in a prime location downtown, the kind of place that had seen better days but had potential. I imagined the laughter, the music, and the clinking of glasses filling the air. I could see my vision coming to life. I approached the landlord, negotiating terms and ensuring I could get a good deal. After many back-and-forth conversations, we settled on a lease agreement. The excitement of signing the contract was intoxicating, and for the first time since the affair, I felt hopeful about my future. As I started renovations, I kept Sarah in the dark about my plans. I mentioned vague ideas about working on a project but never revealed the full scope. I wanted to keep her guessing. Whenever I caught a glimpse of her, I reminded myself of her betrayal and why I was doing this. The renovations took weeks, and I poured every ounce of energy into making the bar perfect. I worked alongside contractors, choosing colors, furniture, and decor that echoed my vision. I wanted it to embody who I was now, not the husband who had been betrayed, but the man who would rise above it. As the grand opening date approached, I experienced a whirlwind of emotions. There was excitement, anxiety, but also a palpable sense of revenge. I knew that once my bar opened, I'd be stepping into a new chapter, one where Sarah would have to confront the reality of her choices, where she would see me thriving without her. I couldn't wait for the day when I would open the doors and welcome patrons inside, knowing she would never set foot in my establishment. I imagined her face when she realized what I had accomplished, how I had taken her betrayal and transformed it into something beautiful. I was ready to reclaim my happiness. This was about more than just revenge. It was about redefining my life on my terms, and I felt stronger with every passing day. The night of the grand opening arrived, and I could hardly contain my excitement. The bar was finally ready, and I had named it Phoenix Lounge, a nod to rising from the ashes of my broken marriage. I had invited friends, family, and a few acquaintances I'd made in the industry. The atmosphere was electric as I set up the final touches, ensuring everything was perfect. The lights dimmed and the music began to play, a mix of upbeat tunes that instantly lifted spirits. I stood behind the bar, wearing a crisp white shirt with rolled-up sleeves and a confident smile. My friends helped serve drinks, and I took the time to mingle with the guests, eager to share my vision for the bar and the cocktails I'd crafted. As patrons began to trickle in, I felt a surge of pride. I was creating something special, a place where people could escape and enjoy themselves. I made sure to introduce myself to everyone who walked through the door, sharing my story and the inspiration behind Phoenix Lounge. It felt liberating to be so open about my journey. This bar represented not just my passion for mixology but also my transformation after betrayal. As the night wore on, laughter and chatter filled the air. I moved from group to group, mixing drinks and making connections. I watched as people sipped on my signature cocktails, and their faces lit up with delight. It was incredible to see my hard work paying off. But there was still one piece missing, a part of me that longed to see Sarah's reaction. I hadn't told her about the opening, and I had no intention of inviting her. I wanted this to be my victory, a celebration of reclaiming my life. Yet a part of me wondered if she'd hear about it through the grapevine. Around midnight, the bar was packed. I was behind the counter shaking up drinks when I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. My heart dropped as I realized it was Sarah, standing just outside the entrance. She looked disheveled, her eyes wide as she scanned the room. I felt my pulse quicken. This was it, the moment I had anticipated, and my heart raced with a mix of exhilaration and dread. I watched her as she hesitated, seemingly unsure if she should come in. I wanted to turn away to focus on the guests, but I was captivated by the sight of her, the woman who had brought so much pain into my life now standing at the threshold of my success. I could see the curiosity in her expression, the realization that I was no longer just her husband but a man who had found his footing again. I had a decision to make. Should I confront her or should I ignore her presence? My friends noticed her too, and I could feel their glares darting between us. I took a deep breath, deciding that the moment had come. I walked straight toward the entrance, my heart pounding in my chest. "Mike," she said, her voice barely above a whisper as I approached. "Sarah." I tried to keep my voice steady, though I could hear the tension between us. "I heard about the opening. I wanted to see it for myself," she stammered, her eyes searching my face as if looking for a hint of the man she once knew. "Welcome to my bar," I replied coolly, gesturing toward the bustling atmosphere behind me. "What do you think?" She looked around, her expression shifting from surprise to something resembling regret. "It's amazing, Mike. I'm really proud of you, proud of me." The words felt hollow and I could sense her insincerity. "You don't get to say that, not after what you did," I shot back, my voice firm. "Please, can we talk? I just want a chance to explain," she pleaded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I felt a surge of anger bubble inside me. "Explain? You had your chance, Sarah. You made your choices, and now you have to live with them. This is my life now, not ours." I could see my words hit her like a punch to the gut. I wasn't going to let her manipulate me again, not after everything. I turned on my heel, walking back into the bar, leaving her standing there alone. The night continued, but I couldn't shake the encounter from my mind. I made drinks and laughed with friends, yet a part of me was unsettled. I had wanted her to see me succeeding, but now that she was here, a flicker of doubt crept in. Did she genuinely want to reconnect, or was it just a knee-jerk reaction to my success? As the last guests began to trickle out, I felt a sense of accomplishment wash over me. Phoenix Lounge had been a triumph, my triumph, but the encounter with Sarah lingered. I had made it clear that I was moving on, but a small part of me wondered if I had closed the door too firmly. The bar had opened in celebration of my newfound freedom, but I realized it was also a reminder that healing takes time. I was still on a journey, and while I had reclaimed my life in many ways, there were still shadows left to confront. I wouldn't allow Sarah to drag me back into the darkness, but I also couldn't ignore the complexities of our past. As I closed up for the night, I took a moment to reflect. I was proud of what I had built, but I knew this was just the beginning. I would continue to move forward, one step at a time. I had learned to stand tall on my own 2 feet, and no matter what lay ahead, I was ready to face it head-on. In the days following the grand opening, I reveled in the success of Phoenix Lounge. The reviews were pouring in, and word of mouth spread like wildfire. Patrons returned, and I made a point of connecting with everyone who came through the door. This was my space, my creation, and I was proud to share it with the world. But the encounter with Sarah weighed heavily on my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had left things unresolved. She hadn't just been my wife. She had been my partner in life, my confidant. Losing her had felt like losing a part of myself. I had never imagined our marriage would end this way, and the reality of it still stung, no matter how much I tried to mask it with the excitement of my bar. One evening, as I prepared for a busy weekend shift, I found myself deep in thought. I knew Sarah was still lurking around, trying to figure out how to re-enter my life without disrupting the progress I'd made. I felt torn. Part of me was angry, while another part was curious about her perspective. Had she genuinely changed? Did she really want to make amends? Before I realized it, I was cleaning the bar, lost in contemplation, when a familiar face stepped into the lounge. It was Sarah again, looking both hesitant and determined. My heart raced at the sight of her. Despite all I had accomplished, there was still a storm brewing inside me, and seeing her stirred it all up. "Hey," she said softly, her eyes searching mine as she approached the bar. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. I wanted to apologize again. "I know I've messed things up, but I really want to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I crossed my arms, feeling defensive. "What exactly is there to talk about? You made your choices, Sarah. You hurt me, and you can't just waltz back into my life expecting forgiveness." "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she responded, her voice trembling. "But I've been doing a lot of thinking. I realize how much I took for granted and it's killing me that I hurt you." I studied her face, trying to gauge her sincerity. "And what do you expect me to do with that?" "I want to make it right," she said earnestly. "I want to help you with the bar. I have experience in event planning and I could help with promotions, organizing themed nights. We could make this place even better together." The suggestion hit me like a ton of bricks. The last thing I wanted was to work with her, but a part of me couldn't help but wonder if she was serious. The idea of her being involved in my success was both repulsive and intriguing. "Why should I trust you again?" I pressed, a mix of anger and confusion swirling within me. "Because I've changed," she insisted. "I've been seeing a therapist. I've realized how much I messed up and how I let my insecurities get the better of me. I was lost, Mike, and I don't want to be that person anymore. I want to be better for myself and for you." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words. "Do you really expect me to believe that just because you've started therapy, everything magically changes? You hurt me in a way I can't just forget." "I know," she said, her eyes welling up with tears, "but I'm willing to work for it. I just want a chance to show you I can be better." I was torn. Part of me wanted to slam the door shut and tell her to leave, but another part of me was curious about her transformation. Perhaps she truly had changed, but could I trust that change? Would she be willing to face the consequences of her actions? "Let me think about it," I finally replied, my voice calmer than I felt. "But don't expect me to just jump into anything. I can wait," she said softly. "I just hope you'll give me a chance." As she walked away, I felt a mix of relief and frustration. I didn't want to let her back in, but I couldn't ignore the flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she had learned from her mistakes. The next few days were a whirlwind. I found myself contemplating Sarah's offer, mulling over the idea of blending our professional lives while navigating the complicated feelings still lingering from our past. My friends encouraged me to keep my distance, warning that it was a slippery slope, but part of me saw potential. Sarah had skills that could genuinely benefit the bar, and I found myself wondering if allowing her to contribute could open up new avenues for my business. After a long week of internal debate, I made my decision. I called Sarah and asked her to meet me at Phoenix Lounge. As I prepared for our conversation, I felt a surge of nerves. I was about to face the woman who had shattered my trust, and now I had to decide whether to give her another shot, both personally and professionally. When she arrived, I could see the hope in her eyes. "Thank you for meeting with me," she said, her voice steady. "Let's get one thing clear first," I started, my tone firm. "This is strictly business. I'm willing to give you a chance to help with the bar, but we're not rekindling anything personal. Do you understand?" Her expression shifted to one of determination. "I completely understand. I just want to show you that I can be a better partner in this endeavor." As we began to discuss ideas and plans for the bar, I felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. This was a new chapter, one that would either lead to further healing or deeper heartbreak. I was stepping into uncharted territory, and I knew I had to remain cautious. But I also knew one thing for sure. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, determined to carve out my own path, no matter how complicated it became. I could feel the fire of my success burning brighter with her involvement, and I was willing to take the risk, even if it meant facing the ghosts of our past. As we dove into the planning phase, I found myself in a whirlwind of activity. Sarah and I began collaborating on events for Phoenix Lounge, brainstorming ideas that would set us apart from the other bars in town. Event nights, mixology classes, themed parties. It felt invigorating to create something together, even if the ghosts of our past lingered in the background. Initially, I was guarded. I watched her every move, waiting for signs of the deceit I had experienced before. But as weeks turned into months, I discovered that she genuinely seemed committed to making things right. Sarah brought a wealth of creativity and organizational skills to the table, and soon, our events became a hit. People flocked to the bar for trivia nights and seasonal parties, and I felt a sense of pride in what we were building together. I still had my reservations, though. While we were thriving professionally, our personal interactions were still fraught with tension. I couldn't ignore the awkwardness that hung in the air whenever we briefly touched on our past. Despite my success, I often found myself grappling with lingering feelings of betrayal and distrust. One evening, during a particularly busy night, I found myself behind the bar, shaking up drinks while Sarah organized a special event. The laughter and chatter surrounded us, but I felt disconnected. I watched her interact with patrons, her confidence shining through, and a part of me wanted to believe that she had truly changed. As the night wound down, I took a moment to catch my breath and stepped outside for some fresh air. The cool evening breeze felt invigorating, and I found myself reflecting on everything that had led me here. I had had a dream of owning my own bar, and now I was living it. But what did it mean to share this success with someone who had hurt me so deeply? Just then, Sarah joined me outside, her eyes sparkling under the moonlight. "We did it, didn't we?" she said, leaning against the wall and letting out a soft laugh. "Yeah, we did," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. "It's going well." She looked at me, her expression shifting from excitement to something serious. "Mike, I know things between us are complicated, but I want you to know how much I appreciate this chance. I never thought we'd be working together again, and I'm grateful for your trust." I nodded, unsure of how to respond. "It's just business, Sarah." Her brow furrowed slightly. "I know and I respect that, but I've realized that I still care about you. I'm not asking for anything, but I want you to know where I stand." The air between us felt charged, and I could sense the emotional weight behind her words. "Caring doesn't erase what happened," I said, my voice firm. "I can't just forget." "I don't expect you to," she replied, her voice softening. "But I'm committed to showing you that I can be trusted. I want to be better." In that moment, I saw a glimpse of vulnerability in her eyes. It stirred something in me, an acknowledgement of the pain we both carried. I knew I had to make a choice, to hold on to the hurt or consider the possibility of healing. "Maybe we can start fresh, not as a couple but as partners," I suggested tentatively. "Let's focus on the bar and building something great together, one step at a time." A hopeful smile broke across her face, and I felt a flicker of warmth in return. "I'd like that," she said, and we stood there in the night, two people intertwined in a complicated dance of forgiveness and possibility. As the weeks passed, Phoenix Lounge continued to grow in popularity, and so did my partnership with Sarah. While we never rekindled a romantic relationship, we formed a bond built on mutual respect and understanding. We learned to communicate openly, and slowly, some of the walls I had built began to crumble. I discovered that healing was not linear. It was messy and took time. I still had moments of doubt, but I also found joy in our successes. The bar became a sanctuary, a place where laughter echoed and memories were made. Looking back, I realized that the betrayal had ultimately pushed me to discover my strength. I had transformed my pain into something beautiful, and while it was complicated to share that experience with Sarah, I was grateful for the unexpected turns my life had taken. I had learned that moving forward didn't mean forgetting. It meant embracing the journey, scars and all. I was proud of the life I had built and the person I was becoming. Phoenix Lounge wasn't just a bar. It was a testament to resilience, reminding me that even in the face of betrayal, there's always a chance to rise again. As I stood behind the bar one night, watching the crowd enjoy themselves, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. No matter what the future held, I was ready to face it with my head held high. I had reclaimed my life, and I was finally in control.